What's going on, Griffins? Let's get started with some math today with your favorite math teacher, Mr. G. Awesome. So today we're going to be learning about some newer numbers, okay, that involve decimals. But first, you have a do now activity, which is just a quick review, setting up and adding problems. So for instance, you have this problem below, 24 plus 19. Remember, when we add numbers, we want to align them by place value and put the largest number on top. So you'll start with 24 because 24 is larger than 19, and then you'll put 19 below, lining up the 4 and the 9 and the 2 and the 1, just like so, and then you'll add them together. Remember, if you need to hold the phone,
ring, 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 banana phone,
it's completely fine as well. So you're gonna do that, and then hopping into today's lesson. So our objective today, Griffins will be able to know place values with decimals. Now, the numbers we've been working with in the past were whole numbers, right? So numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. But there are also other numbers that exist. There's numbers that have decimal values. So I could have like 1.5 or 1.6. These decimal values also have place values, okay? So if we look at our knowledge here, everything to the left of the decimal is what we've been using already. We have our ones, our tens, our hundreds, and our thousands place, right? The decimal is like a wall between the whole numbers, okay, and the partial numbers, okay? So to the right are parts of a whole number. So I have my decimal point here. It's like the wall that tells me which side is which. And then I have my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. Okay, it has the th at the end. Notice here, the biggest thing to notice is that there's no once place, right? There's tenths, hundreds, and thousands, right? So that's the biggest thing to note. There's no once place, there's a tenths place, and a hundredths and a thousands. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking numbers and just filling them into this table, recognizing like the place values and how our numbers fit into them. So let's go to our model for today. So our first problem here wants us to place the number 12.45 in the place value chart below. So what you can use to help you a ton is where the decimal is located, okay? Remember, that decimal point is the wall between the whole numbers and the partial numbers, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify where is my decimal point. Notice my decimal is right here between the 12 and the 4. So I go to my chart and I bring it on down, okay? My decimal point's here. To the left of my decimal point is the 1 and the 2. And to the right is the 4 and the 5. So notice here, my ones place, my 1 is in the tens place. My 2 is in the ones place. I have 4 tenths, okay, 4 in the tenths place, and 5 in the hundredths place. Okay, so remember, we're using that decimal as the wall to guide us to where we need to go. Awesome. Let's try another. I want to place 134.256 in the chart below. Now, to do this, I need to use my decimal to guide me again, okay? Notice here, these are blank. I don't know what place values they are, okay? So I can still use the decimal to guide me here. I bring the decimal down and I write what's to the left and to the right. So on the left of the decimal is 134, and to the right is 2, 5, and 6, okay? Now, you may not remember the place values off the top of your head, and that's fine. That's why you have this chart, and if you go back to your worksheet, your chart will tell you which sections they are, okay? Because you're going to have to go through and write down which number is in what place value. Awesome, so you can always refer back to that chart if you need to. So, I have these written down. You'll notice this is my hundredths, this is my tens, this is my ones, this is my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. Okay, remember, always starting with the tenths. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Now I have this blank table and this number. I have 32.342, and I want to fill in my table with this value. So what I'm going to do is I had to use my decimal to guide me. Well, notice in this table there's no decimal written down, so I'm going to make my own. So in this middle spot here, I'm going to draw in my decimal. Okay, use just a little dot, like a period mark. I draw in my decimal. It doesn't need to be perfect, but there it is. And then I'm going to start filling it in. To my left of my decimal is 3 and 2. To the right is 3, 4, and 2. Remember here, order matters. The order that you put these numbers in matters. And this will be my tens, my ones, my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. Okay, amazing. So that's how we solve those problems here. Another one that I want to bring up is on your worksheet as well. If you go down to your next model, aligning up the decimal places. So when you align the decimal places, just like we do when we add, it's very important that you line them up perfectly. Okay, we can't align up a ones place with a tens place. We need to line them up perfectly, and it can get really hard when we start using decimal places, but we can use the decimal to our advantage to do so. Okay, so let's look at this problem here. I'll zoom in. It wants me to align the following numbers. I have 123.45. I have 12.62. I have 1.555, and I have 175.231. Okay, remember the decimal is the key. Okay, before you do anything else, before you write down any numbers, you need to label your decimal point. And remember, the easiest place to put it is right smack dab in the middle. So I'm going to put my decimal point right in the middle of all of these tables. So my decimal point goes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start filling in the numbers top to bottom with that decimal point already in place. Okay, it's like my anchor. It tells me where the middle is, and I can fill in the numbers around it. So start with the top one. I have 123.45, so I put 1, 2, 3.45. Boom. Next one is 12.62, and then I have 1.555, and lastly I have 175.231. And notice here, they lined up perfectly by place value because those decimals are already on a line, so it makes everything else to fill in easier. But notice here, you're going to have blank spots in your table. If you think back to what I said in earlier videos, when I said to represent nothing, we just put a 0. We can put in zeros here as placeholders for these table numbers because there's nothing there. So wherever you see a blank space, put a 0. So for here, I have a 0 here. I have another blank space, a 0 there, a 0 there, and a 0 there. And then boom, my table is filled out. Notice here, all the numbers are aligned by place values, nice and easy, okay? Makes it a lot easier, especially when we get into the next lessons of adding and subtracting these. It's very easy to align them up. Awesome. So you're gonna be doing this activity today in your guided practice. Okay, so make sure you're writing in the numbers on the place value charts. Okay, you'll have your question up here. You'll write them in here. So I have 145, okay, 0.89. So you'll write in your place values down here. So I have 8, 9, and then 5, 4, 1, and then I accidentally put this one here. Let me erase that. And then you'll go down and then you'll write the place values in. So my 1 was in the hundreds, and I'll write that in there. Okay, and you'll do the same. The 4 was in the tens, and then so on and so forth for these problems. Okay, some of the tables are different though. You'll have ones that are labeled for you, the next ones are not labeled, and as you get further down, okay, maybe they're not labeled again. You'll also have a problem where you need to fill in a line by the decimal. Okay, so make sure you do that. Then you'll also have your exit ticket for today. All right, so remember, if you have trouble remembering the place values, scroll all the way to the top to your key knowledge, and it'll have that chart for you to refer back to. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is this. Please, 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 please.
Say what?
I said please remember, use that decimal as your anchor and where to start. As always, remember.
Ready for this Sunday night when WWE Champ John Cena defends his title in the WWE Super